Alrighty, okay. So to start with, I probably need a volunteer. I do need a volunteer. Do I have a volunteer? Can be anywhere from anyone in the audience. Okay, perfect. Step right up. Thank you very much. I love how you're brave enough. You volunteered without even knowing what you volunteered for, even after David's opening intro. But you today, sir, are going to be the timekeeper, and you'll need this, which is a rubber glove. So I'll don my rubber glove as well, and we can get going. So what I'm going to ask you to do is hold a tiny piece, a specially measured out piece of gallium in your hand. So this is, it's a metal that melts at about body temperature, and this lump will melt in about 15 minutes. So when it's melted, you've got to sing out, and that's when I stop talking as well. So if you sit up here, then everyone can know when it's going, and you can close your hand. We'll check in every so often to see how we're doing. It melts about 29.5 degrees, and so Ian, thank you very much. It's good. We'll get started. Okay, right. So, culinary creativity. I'm Sam Bompus of Bompus and Parr. We do things like we've made whiskey tornadoes, chocolate waterfalls flowing at about 12,000 litres an hour. We do stuff with massive brands, so we've just made the world's best place officially to taste Guinness at the Guinness Storehouse, which has about 1.4 million people coming through it each year, the Guinness Taste Experience. But we also like to do stuff that's a bit sort of fun and rock and roll, and why the hell not, with food. And this is something we did earlier this year, which is cooking with lava, which is about... It was the most fun thing I've ever done on a hangover. We just opened an exhibition in New York the night before, hadn't been to sleep, went up to Syracuse University where there's a volcanologist who is just up for stuff. And we just put some steaks on. It was brilliant. And I think his 11-year-old son photographed it on a GoPro, and it got some 7 million hits or something, which is pretty cool. But really what we're always known for was jelly. And basically, jelly has been a tough task mistress for us. It has taught us all we know about the mysteries and wonder of food. And what I'm going to do in this session, in the next, I've still got some time, the next 13 minutes or so, is talk about our approach to culinary creativity, how we got into it, and then the very zenith, the apogee of our ambition about what you can do with gustatory endeavors and food as well. So, where we started was very, very humbly. I just really wanted to do something with my best friend Harry. We'd known each other since we've been 13, and we wanted to do something on the weekend, and we thought it'd be marvellous to get a stall at Borough Market. We thought that'd be quite the proper caper. It was kind of equidistant from our two houses, and we phoned them up and we said, well, we actually looked around Borough Market first, and there were no sort of like really good sweet stalls there. There was no one even selling ice cream at the time, and we thought jelly held the key. I've not really told people this as well, but to start with, we thought we're being really savvy entrepreneurs. It's about the only time in my life I've considered myself an entrepreneur was for the first week or so, and we thought, because at the time, the Borough Market, there was this guy selling, I think they're still there, selling this thing called mushroom pate. And I bought a pack of it, and I ate it all down. It tasted absolutely delicious. And I looked at the back of the label and realized that it was about 75% butter with only a fraction of mushroom in it. And I thought jelly would be even better, because our main ingredient would be water. And so we're taking base water and turning it into the wealth of well, we'd be extreme wealth, but of course we're not. And it really didn't help that after we asked Borough Market this, they said, could you get lost? We're not interested at all. But what we knew we had to do is really push it out. We couldn't afford any of those wonderful antique copper molds that are regularly used, we wanted to use to make fabulous jellies. So instead, Harry, who's an architect, my business partner, took all the techniques and technologies he had learned to design buildings to design jelly. And so we start off with St. Paul's Cathedral, which you CAD model it, you 3D print it, vac form it, looks like that. It was probably the first jelly we designed. It's probably still the best as well, but I think that's possibly something to do with Christopher Wren. But what we really wanted to do as well was challenge ourselves to make the ultimate jelly molds, like the very best. And so we invited any architects to send in their designs, and we would turn them into a fabulous jelly. And this is about in 2008, it's a good long time ago. Architects at the time didn't have an enormous amount on, and they seemed to have a lot of spare capacity. And they decided to turn their intellect to the serious business of jellying. And we had all sorts of people from Grimshaw's, Allsop. There was one of my favorites was this one by Rogers Turk Harbour and Partners, and they really understood jelly design. And then we thought, and this is Baracus Airport in Madrid, and they turned the normal color coding into different fruity flavors. And what we thought is, if we have all these fabulous talents, let's do a big exhibition of it all, and we can showcase all this wonderful jelly we've made. We put these tickets on sale, and we thought, okay, maybe a few people buy them, and actually 2,000 people bought tickets, and we thought, fuck. Like, this is a real problem. We're literally going to be lynched because jellies aren't normally bigger than this, and if you make them bigger, they just, it's like a bouncy ball or something, and you wouldn't want to eat it at all. And we realized that, because we saw what people were writing online, they said, we're coming to this architectural jelly banquet, they're going to be these vast jellies in the shape of houses, I'm going to romp through them, tunneling my way through this jelly, and we thought they were going to be massively disappointed. So this is when we started really trying to look at how we could use other things that chefs don't normally do with food and putting it into the food to give people a really compelling experience. So with this, we not only had the jellies, but jellies wobble lots. We had a waggle engine made from a truck windscreen wiper underneath the table. We sprayed spray everywhere, so it smelled like strawberries. The whole thing was lit, so it was like strawberries. We did our first collaboration that we'd ever done with a real scientist, and he basically was an ear scientist. He was interested in collagen, which he thought was a bit like gelatin. If you boil up something that's very collagen-rich, you'll get a jelly, which is why the Egyptians were said to have jelly, although let's not go there. But then he was an ear scientist. We worked with him to record the sound of jelly wobbling. So, and this went on. It's actually on New Scientist. It was the first. Sorry, we're supposed to get rid of that end plate. It was their most watched video for a very long time online. Although it's kind of bewildering. People didn't really know what it had to do with science, but we thought, gosh, maybe if we do these sorts of collaborations, we're really onto stuff. And so I'm going to leave jelly here. This is the ultimate jelly project we did, which was actually worked out how to make epic jellies. So that was a 50-ton jelly round Essex Great Britain, Grade 2 listed landmark, and made for a budget of £500, which was quite good because we had spare ingredients, then we needed labour, and they provided all the local community support teams, so all the community payback guys, people with scars across their faces, called Hammer, because they killed someone with a hammer to make it happen. Yeah, good ideas are great. Anyway, so our gustatory philosophy, I'll say this very, very quickly. And to illustrate it, some footage right the way into beautiful Gizzy Erskine's gut, who was the only person bold enough when I said, can I put a pill cam down in front, can I put a pill cam inside you in front of 300 people, actually said yes. I don't think she'd read my message. But when she turned up, she was too late. The audience was already there. So it was too late for her to say no, really. So anyway, so this is, you're inside her mouth. In a second, we'll go down her esophagus. It'll be like going through a fleshy hyperspace and then into her stomach, which you'll start seeing jelly bellies and all sorts of things. But anyway, so culinary philosophy. We soon found out with that event, one of the things that I found really interesting is we had, so there we go, esophagus, stomach. One of the things that I found really interesting is we had loads of display jellies. If jellies have to be out for a long time, we set them really, really solid, because otherwise they'll melt. And someone stood next to me, just took a bite out of one, and I was like, what are you doing? There's just food dye in there and some gelatin. He's like, oh, it's a delicious strawberry jelly. And I knew that really what it was is his expectation, the environment, the smell that he was getting, the soundtrack, all of these senses being overwhelmed, telling him that what he really had was a strawberry jelly in his mouth. And that really started making us think and doing a lot of research about how we as non-chefs, because we're constantly doing these dinners, and we'll see online people that's going to Bomson Park and have the best meal of my life. And I know all the things that go into the best meal of your life. There's so many different factors, including one of them, which we have no control over whatsoever, which is the company you bring. So we're trying to look at how all the different ways that we can then go and choreograph someone's best meal of their life. And of course, one of the most important things is the framing mechanisms. And I think my favorite research paper is 2003, Professor John Edwards wrote something which he took chicken a la king, which is this mysterious sort of creamy chicken dish. And he served it in all sorts of different environments. So he served it in a fine dining French restaurant and in a rather more insalubrious environment, like student halls of residence and places like that. And when they're in the quality environment, everyone said, this is phenomenal, this is really delicious, tender, moist, unctuous, good value for money. And in the lower status environments, people were like, oh, this is claggy, dry, disgusting. So we then thought, well, let's start using that to really choreograph people's dining experiences. To use everything that we knew how to give people awesome time. So what I was going to do is just outline some of the ways that we attack creativity with food these days, and then show you how they all come together in one grand hurrah, then also, hopefully, I don't know if we're even allowed to do questions, but I was going to give a prize for the person who asked the best question as well. It'd be a good prize. So start thinking of questions now. It's very important. Okay, so we always read lots of books. We go back into the past and find these tales. And it's basically, if there was something about food in the past that got people excited, humans haven't changed that much. They'll probably still be excited. And so we found out in 1694 that Admiral Edward Russell, British admiral, flooded a fountain in Alicante with a cognac-based punch, held a party for 6 days, all Navy lot, and they only stopped the party once when it started raining and they didn't want their punch diluted. So we said, okay, well, that's amazing. What we should do is, and they served it all out with a small boy and a coracle who they had to change every 15 minutes lest they become overcome by the fumes and fall in for being drunk. And we heard about that, and we thought, that's amazing, we've got to make that happen. And so we flooded the building with booze, worked with Arup in the engineering, worked with LSBU on all the health and safety. And the thing that I love is, no matter how difficult something really is, or seeming like in the modern world seems impossible, with the right lot of people, you can do it. We do a lot of work trying to bring other industries which maybe haven't done stuff with food into the food realm. So this New Year's Eve, we got in touch with, we were asked to do something that had never been done before. And what we thought would be fun is setting fireworks to flavor. So we set the New Year's Eve fireworks to flavor. And there's sort of red stuff exploding in the sky, you tasted strawberry. There'd been relatively little innovation in the sort of fireworks industry since about the 15th century when, apart from firing digitally, so or you press one button, it all fires off. So that's pretty good. And one of the things I was really pleased with was Westminster Council never lets you do confetti. We're able to do confetti because it makes such a big clean-up mess. So if you open it up, you can pass it around. You can all have banana confetti. Good catch. And should we go over here as well? There should be some at the back too. Oh, sorry. Open it up, pass it around. I know it's confetti, there's tons of it for everyone. But it was really fun because Westminster Council never lets you use confetti, but we just thought we have to have confetti for this grand show, especially banana confetti. And so we're able to work with pyro people and flavorists and put them together and never normally speak together to devise something that's pea starch based. So not only is it hypoallergenic, kosher, and halal, because you never know who you're going to get there on the South Bank. You don't want to poison someone. But also, it dissolves immediately, and so there's no clean on water, and it's actually quite a rainy night. So it meant there was no cleanup, and it doesn't stain people's clothes as well. So there's always a way if you sort of hybridize these things. And that's all going out in front of people. Then the final thing we love doing as well is collaborating with scientists. And so here, at the moment, it's not totally legal yet in this country or even in Europe We're working with genetically modified bacteria to create bioluminescent enzymes that can make your food glow. Trying to push that through EU novelty foods at the moment. But like the total theory in action, so combining like a bit of history, bit of like, taking different industries, laying them together, and also working together with scientists who are doing some really cool stuff in their own field, happens with this. So I was really inspired. The book that I always turn to when I'm looking for inspiration in all sorts of areas is Huysmans' Arabor. He's a sort of rather morbid-looking gent on the right-hand side. Arabor Against Nature was his book. It was actually used, it's so decadent, it's arch bit of decadent French literature, that it was used in, how are you doing?
I think I might be dead.
Oh my God. It's not melting at all.
I think I might be dead.
Right? If you crunch it up like that, and really tense your arm as well, then we'll get it good. Okay, perfect, thank you. It was so decadent as a book that it was held up in the trial of Oscar Wilde to just prove how decadent he was. And it was the book that was said to corrupt him. So what he did is he ran that together with Charles Spence, who's a professor of cross-modal, an experimental psychologist at Oxford University. And he basically gave us cross-modality of all the senses. So if I say what pitch is lemon, you would say it's probably a higher pitch than coffee. And if we play you a high pitch, that lemon will taste even more lemony. So we then use that as a brief to make the ultimate instrument, working with organists who are doing the same things that have been doing things for generations, to make a working cocktail organ, taking neuroscience, psychology, organ building, to build this organ that actually changes your sense of taste as well. And as you hear it play, if you've got a glass of Johnnie Walker in your hand, what it's able to do is pinpoint and highlight 6 of the cardinal flavors in the glass, and they really come through very, very strongly. And I've got a little clip of it here. And the thing I love is that the same principles would work. So if we could play the video, the same principles would work if you guys had a glass of Walkers in your hand now. It would actually start changing your perception of taste as you're drinking. And that would work if anyone does TV as well. You could do that in a very, very scalable way. So you could have an audience all around the world having a very similar flavor experience through their television sets. And obviously, when it's being played on the organ, I tried to get the organ here today, but it's about 5.2 meters high, and it just wasn't going to fit. But the actual organ just makes your chairs shake. It really gets you in the stomach. It's a magnificent experience and really, really wonderful. So, how are we doing? It's much more malleable. Okay, despite that not totally working, I'm getting flashed at here, which means that I need to stop talking, which means that, okay, so with this, the prize for the questions, I think we're doing questions at the end, is a wonderful bit of flavored lube, which we made, normally do stuff with food, but we've increasingly doing stuff with bodies, which we made for the Museum of Sex in New York, and I was doing cocktails with them. At the end of the cocktail session, I said, have you ever thought of Brest Bouncy Castle? And they said, that's an interesting thing. Let's go to our board. And they thought about it in the board, and they came back to us and said, you know what? There's so much enthusiasm for the Brest Bouncy Castle. We don't have enough money for that. We've got enough money for an entire show with the Brest Bouncy Castle. So that's up and running at the moment. And the only bit I've got here, though, is because it's all fairground, and there is a very serious academic rationale for it that justifies it all. It's all fairground and eroticism and the interlink between the two. So we've made snake oil as a snake oil salesman at the fairground would do. So you can have it yourself if you ask a great question. With that, I'd like to give a big round of applause to our timekeeper. Just sort of peel this off a little bit like a condom, it's a little bit harmful, and wash your hands before you eat. And thank you all, and hopefully some fabulous questions as well. And this is for you as well. Sorry. Sorry. There you go. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Gentlemen, we'll take a couple of questions. You have to shout out, because we're not going to go with microphones. I don't know if we've got time to the microphones. Any questions, Sam? First hands we see. Everyone.
Someone who is no object, what project would you like to do next?
Well, I'm quite often working on them. And the organ that was my ultimate project for years and years and years. At the moment, I really want to do another flooding project. We've got quite into plumbing and food. And so I'd like to see another sort of epic. It'd be really good to see a really good waterfall that could be a permanent sort of waterfall of alcohol or something like that, which would be like a Niagara Falls of alcohol would be great.
Another question over here in the front.
Do you have footage when the camera pill leaves the body?
Well, this is
That's if he overruns, we'll show that.
this is it's interesting actually. I went to I met someone. We just launched so we used that footage to illustrate our latest book, which is Memoirs of the Stomach. I was at the book launch, and this guy came up to me and said, "So interesting. I had a pill camera too, and you know what? I've still got mine." Which then became a really sort of awkward conversation very quickly. I was like, I've got to go speak to someone else.
I think what we have to do, Sam, is combine the breast bouncy castle with quantum computing,
Yeah.
so you could have breasts in all sorts of different
God.
situations at the same time.
That'd be amazing.
Sam Bumpus.
Cool. Thank you very much.